It was a bold, audacious idea. Four black men coming together to want to start a magazine to talk about the beauty and intelligence of black women. 1968,
Yeah.
Robert Kennedy had been killed, Dr. King had been killed. There was a lot of interest within the country to get young blacks in the business.
In 1970, a magazine hit newsstands that looked like nothing else. On its cover, black women, unapologetic, stylish, and radiant. Inside, articles written for them, about them, in their voice. The magazine was called Essence. But this is not just a story about publishing. It's a story about survival. Because from the start, Essence faced betrayal from its own founders. It was dragged through courts, nearly bankrupted, and later sold to corporate giants who critics said stripped away its soul. By the time it turned 50, insiders accused it of being toxic at its very core. And yet, through all the storms, Essence refused to die. This is the saga of how a magazine that was never supposed to exist became an empire, and why it still matters today. This is Aggressive Intelligence, Black Business Files. The late 1960s were a time of revolution. Martin Luther King Jr. had been assassinated, Malcolm X was gone. The Civil Rights Act had passed, but racism was alive in every corner of American life. Representation in media, practically non-existent. Walk into a drugstore in 1969, pick up Vogue or Glamour, and you'd see rows of thin white women, blonde hair blowing in the breeze. Ebony and Jet existed, yes, but they spoke to broad black life, families, and civil rights. There was nothing dedicated solely to black women's lifestyle, beauty, and power. Four men, Edward Lewis, Clarence O. Smith, Cecil Hollingsworth, and Jonathan Blount, noticed that void. They pooled their savings and scraped together about $13,000 in borrowed capital. It wasn't much, the equivalent of a used car lot. But they believed in the idea, a glossy lifestyle magazine aimed squarely at black women. At first, they almost stumbled. One early name pitched for the magazine was Sapphire, a word dripping with racist stereotypes of loud, angry black women. Imagine the damage if they had gone to market with that. Cooler heads prevailed, and they chose something more timeless: Essence. In July 1970, the first issue hit newsstands. The circulation? 50,000 copies, small by national standards. And yet, something incredible happened. Black women bought it. They passed it around salons. They clipped out pictures and taped them to mirrors. They stacked issues on coffee tables like sacred texts. Against every prediction, the magazine that wasn't supposed to work had found its audience. But while readers were falling in love, behind the scenes, the founders were falling apart. Success has a way of testing loyalty. By 1974, just 4 years into Essence's run, two of the original founders, Jonathan Blount and Cecil Hollingsworth, clashed with Ed Lewis and Clarence Smith. Money, direction, control. The fights got so heated that Blount and Hollingsworth walked away from management. But here's the catch. They still owned shares. They still had power. For a moment, Essence seemed stable. But in 1977, Hollingsworth came back swinging. He teamed up with Blount and none other than Gordon Parks Sr., the legendary photographer who had helped shape Essence's artistic voice. Together, they launched a takeover bid. Lawsuits flew, boardroom alliances fractured. The battle dragged on for 3 years. Legal fees drained Essence's thin profits. Advertisers pulled back, afraid the magazine wouldn't survive. Employees whispered in hallways, "Is this the end?" By 1980, Essence was on life support, then salvation. An outside investor stepped in with a surgical solution: buy out Cecil Hollingsworth's stake. One check, one signature. And Hollingsworth was out. The lawsuits collapsed. Blount faded. Gordon Parks walked away in frustration. Ed Lewis and Clarence Smith were left in control. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't celebrated, but it was survival. Essence had survived its first betrayal. With the courtroom chaos behind them, Essence could finally focus on what it did best: speaking to black women. The covers glowed with dark-skinned models long before Vogue dared. Inside, the articles tackled everything from natural hair to career advancement, from politics to parenting. And in 1981, Essence crowned its new queen, Susan L. Taylor. Taylor had joined the magazine back in 1970 as a part-time beauty editor. She had no college degree, no publishing pedigree. She learned the business from the ground up. By 1981, she was editor-in-chief. Her column In the Spirit became a ritual. Month after month, her words were clipped out and pinned to refrigerators. She wrote with warmth, honesty, and spirituality. Readers said it felt like she was sitting in their living rooms, giving advice over tea. Under Taylor's leadership, Essence's circulation exploded. By the late 1980s, the magazine was reaching 1.6 million readers every month. For Black women across America, Essence wasn't just a magazine, it was a mirror, a lifeline, a place where they finally felt seen. Essence wasn't content with just pages. It wanted a platform. In 1987, the Essence Awards launched, honoring Black excellence. From Oprah to Aretha, from Denzel to Maya Angelou, the biggest names in Black America graced the Essence stage. But the real game changer came in 1994. To celebrate its 25th anniversary, Essence threw a one-time music festival in New Orleans. It was a gamble. They rented the Superdome. If people didn't show, the losses would be catastrophic. But they came. In droves, tens of thousands packed the venue. The one-time event became annual. By the 2000s, the Essence Festival of Culture drew over 500,000 attendees every year. It wasn't just concerts, it was a cultural pilgrimage. Presidents gave speeches, Beyoncé headlined. Vendors made small fortunes selling Black-owned products. The genius? Diversification. When print ads dipped, festival sponsorships and ticket sales kept the money flowing. Essence had built not just a magazine, but an empire. But success invites new battles. In 2000, publishing giant Time Inc. bought a 49% stake in Essence. By 2005, they owned it outright. For the first time in its history, Essence was no longer Black-owned. The backlash was immediate. Could a white-owned corporation protect the soul of a Black women's magazine? Inside, staffers noticed changes. Advertisers had more influence. Editorial independence shrank, and the heartbreak came in the form of Susan L. Taylor. After nearly 3 decades as the magazine's spiritual anchor, she stepped aside. Later, she admitted the new direction no longer matched her spirit. For many readers, this was betrayal number 2. Not from founders this time, but from the corporate boardroom. If you're still watching, you can see this isn't just a magazine story, it's a survival saga. This is what we do at Aggressive Intelligence Black Business Files. We bring you the untold stories of Black businesses that fought to exist. So hit like and subscribe right now. Because Essence's battles, they were far from over. By the mid-2000s, print was collapsing. Advertising dollars dried up. Magazines folded everywhere. Under Time Inc., Essence struggled. Budgets shrank. Layoffs spread. Younger readers drifted to digital-first platforms like Blavity and The Root. Essence, once a powerhouse, now looked like it might fade into irrelevance. Critics whispered that the brand had lost its authenticity, that the corporate takeover had hollowed it out. The empire that once seemed untouchable was showing cracks. Then, redemption. In 2018, Richelieu Dennis, the Liberian-American entrepreneur who built Shea Moisture into a billion-dollar empire, bought Essence Communications. For the first time since 2005, Essence was 100% Black-owned again. The symbolism was powerful. After 13 years in corporate hands, Essence had come home. Dennis invested in digital expansion, grew the Essence Festival into a multi-day cultural behemoth, and vowed to keep Essence's legacy alive for a new generation. It was a rebirth. But survival never came easy. In 2020, as Essence celebrated its 50th anniversary, an anonymous Medium post appeared. Written by staffers under the name Black Female Anonymous, it accused leadership of harassment, pay inequity, and a toxic workplace. The backlash was fierce. Critics called it hypocrisy. The magazine built on empowering Black women was accused of silencing them. Dennis temporarily stepped aside. An independent investigation cleared some allegations, but trust had been shaken. Once again, the question loomed: could Essence survive another storm? Over 50 years, Essence has been betrayed by its own co-founders, nearly bankrupted by lawsuits, bought and sold by corporate giants, slammed by scandal, and yet it lives. Why? Because Essence was never just a magazine. It was a demand, a lifeline, a reflection Black women refused to give up. When Madison Avenue said no, Black women said yes. When corporations stripped it, Readers demanded it back. Essence survived because its audience would not let it die. The story of Essence is more than publishing history. It's a case study in survival, betrayal, and the power of community. This has been Aggressive Intelligence Black Business Files. Comment below. Did Essence sit on your family's coffee table? Which cover or story do you remember most? And don't forget to subscribe for more untold stories of Black business brilliance. Because if Essence taught us anything, it's this: when you own your culture, you own your power.